David Chen had been performing as a street mime in San Francisco for 3 years. Every day, he'd stand on the same corner, doing elaborate routines for crowds that never stopped. People walked past without looking, threw occasional coins without watching. After 3 years of invisible performances, David was ready to quit. Then one Tuesday afternoon, someone stopped. Someone watched his entire routine. Someone started performing with him. That someone was Robin Williams. What happened next changed David's life and launched a career that would eventually take him to Cirque du Soleil. It was 1994, and David Chen was 26 years old. He'd moved to San Francisco from Los Angeles 3 years earlier with a dream: to make it as a performance artist. He'd studied mime in Paris, spent 2 years perfecting his craft, and believed San Francisco, with its reputation for appreciating street performers, would be his big break. He was wrong. San Francisco's streets were oversaturated with performers. Musicians with amplifiers, dancers with boomboxes, acrobats doing flips, magicians with flashy tricks. In the competition for attention and tips, a traditional mime, silent, subtle, relying purely on physical storytelling, was invisible. David performed on the corner of Powell and Market, near the cable car turnaround. Thousands of people passed daily. Tourists, locals, business people. They walked past David like he wasn't there. He'd spent months developing elaborate routines. One told the story of a man's entire life: childhood, love, career, aging, death, all in 12 minutes without a single word. Another depicted a struggle against invisible walls that kept getting smaller, representing the constraints of modern life. A third showed a puppet slowly realizing he controlled his own strings. These weren't simple stuck-in-a-box mime routines. They were stories, art, emotional journeys. David poured his soul into every performance. And people threw quarters without watching. By year 3, David had developed a system. He'd perform his full routine whether anyone watched or not. He told himself he was practicing, maintaining his skills, staying sharp. But the truth was harder to accept: he was performing for nobody because nobody cared. He barely made rent. His studio apartment cost $800 a month, and on a good week, he'd make $200 from tips. He worked nights as a janitor at an office building to cover the gap. He'd clean offices from midnight to 6 a.m., sleep until noon, then perform until dark. His parents called from Los Angeles every week, asking when he'd give up this hobby and get a real job. His friends from mime school in Paris had moved on. One was teaching, another had quit performing entirely, a third was doing corporate events. David was the last one still trying to make street performance work. In September 1994, David made a decision. He'd give it until the end of the month. If nothing changed by October 1st, he'd move back to Los Angeles, apologize to his parents, and find an office job. He was 26. Still young enough to start over, but old enough to know when to quit. He didn't tell anyone about his deadline. He just kept performing, counting down the days. On a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks before his self-imposed deadline, David was performing his life story routine. It was 2:30 p.m., the street was moderately crowded, and as usual, no one was watching. He'd reached the part where the character falls in love. A beautiful section where he portrayed both the man and his love interest, switching between them with subtle changes in posture and expression. It required complete concentration and precise timing. He finished the love story section and moved into the career-building phase. This was when the character became consumed by ambition, chasing success while losing sight of what mattered. David was fully immersed in the performance. He'd learned to tune out the oblivious crowds, to perform for himself and the art rather than for an audience that wasn't there. Then he noticed something unusual. Someone had stopped. Not paused while talking on a phone or checking a map, actually stopped to watch. David didn't break character, but his awareness shifted. Someone was watching. Really watching. Understanding the story he was telling. He continued the routine, moving into the aging section, the character's body slowly failing, movements becoming more difficult, the gradual acceptance of mortality. The person watching stayed for the entire routine. All 12 minutes. When David finished, the character's death portrayed by a slow, dignified lowering to the ground followed by a final, peaceful stillness. He held the ending position for a long moment before coming back to life and standing up. That's when he saw who'd been watching. Robin Williams was standing there, tears streaming down his face. David recognized him immediately. Everyone did. Robin was one of the most famous actors in the world. Mrs. Doubtfire had come out the previous year, and he was everywhere. For a moment, David didn't know what to do. Robin was just standing there, crying, not trying to hide it. "That was beautiful," Robin said finally. His voice was quiet, emotional. "That was one of the most beautiful pieces of performance art I've ever seen." David was stunned. "Thank you," he managed to say. "No, I mean it," Robin continued. "That wasn't street performance. That was art, real art. The way you transitioned between life stages, the physicality, the emotional truth, that was extraordinary." David felt something crack inside his chest. For 3 years, no one had really seen what he was doing. They'd seen a mime, an oddity, a curiosity, something to drop coins for without engaging. Robin had seen the art. "How long have you been performing here?" Robin asked. 3 years? 3 years of this quality, and nobody's noticed you?" David laughed bitterly. "You're the first person who's ever watched a complete routine." Robin looked shocked. "That can't be true." "It is. People throw money sometimes, but they don't watch. You're the first person in 3 years who stood there for the entire performance." Robin was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then he said something that changed everything. "Do it again. Right now. I'll watch, and I'll make sure other people watch too." Before David could respond, Robin positioned himself next to David's performance space and started calling out to passing crowds in different voices and characters. "Ladies and gentlemen," Robin announced in a Carnival Barker voice. "You're about to witness something extraordinary. The greatest mime artist in San Francisco, possibly America, is about to perform. This is not your grandmother's mime, this is art." People started stopping. You couldn't ignore Robin Williams shouting on a street corner. Within 2 minutes, there was a crowd of about 40 people. Robin turned to David and said quietly, "Show them what you showed me." David's heart was pounding. He'd performed for nobody for so long that performing for 40 people felt terrifying. But he started the routine again. This time, it was different. This time, people were actually watching. David could feel the attention, the engagement. He'd forgotten what that felt like. Halfway through the performance, during the love story section, Robin did something unexpected. He stepped into the performance space and became the love interest. David had been portraying both characters, switching between them. Robin took over one character, and suddenly David was performing opposite someone, having a genuine interaction, a real moment of improvised storytelling. The crowd was mesmerized. Robin Williams, one of the most famous performers in the world, was doing street mime with an unknown artist. They completed the routine together. Robin followed David's lead, understanding the story instinctively, adding subtle touches that enhanced rather than overshadowed David's work. When they finished, the crowd erupted in applause. People threw money, not coins but bills. 5s, 10s, 20s. Someone threw a 50. Robin stayed with David for another hour. They performed 2 more routines together, drawing increasingly large crowds. By the end, there were over 100 people watching. When the performances were done, Robin pulled David aside. "Listen to me carefully," Robin said. "You're incredibly talented, world-class. But you're invisible here because San Francisco has 1,000 street performers and you're competing on the wrong terms. You need a bigger platform." "I don't know how to get one," David admitted. "Have you ever heard of Cirque du Soleil?" David nodded. Everyone in performance art knew Cirque, the prestigious Canadian circus company that blended theater, circus and street performance into something entirely new. "They're developing a new show," Robin said. "They scout talent everywhere. I know some people there. Would you be interested if I connected you?" David couldn't speak, he just nodded. "Give me your contact information," Robin said. "I'm going to make some calls." David wrote his phone number on a piece of paper with shaking hands. Robin took it, then pulled out his wallet and handed David $500 in cash. "This is not charity. This is an investment in an artist. Use it to survive while you prepare for the audition I'm going to arrange." Then Robin did something even more surprising. He took off his watch, an expensive-looking piece, and handed it to David. "This is from a movie premiere. It's worth a few $1,000s if you need to sell it. But here's what I want you to do instead. Keep it as a reminder that someone saw your art today. Someone recognized your talent. On days when you doubt yourself, look at this watch and remember that Robin Williams stood on a street corner and performed with you because he believed you were extraordinary." David was crying now. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I've spent my whole career being seen," Robin said. "And you've spent 3 years being invisible despite being brilliant. That's not right. Talent deserves to be recognized. Art deserves an audience." Robin left, and David stood there on the corner with over $800 in tips, Robin's watch, and a piece of paper with Robin's assistant's phone number. 3 days later, Robin's assistant called. Cirque du Soleil wanted to see David audition. They'd fly him to Montreal. 2 weeks later, David was in Montreal, auditioning for Cirque du Soleil's creative directors. He performed the same life story routine Robin had watched on that San Francisco corner. They hired him on the spot. David spent the next year training with Cirque du Soleil, learning to adapt his mime work to their theatrical style. His solo mime pieces became centerpieces of Cirque's new show, Quietum. Quietum premiered in 1996 and became one of Cirque's most successful shows, touring worldwide for years. David's performances received critical acclaim. Reviewers called him the most emotionally sophisticated mime artist of his generation. But David never forgot that Tuesday afternoon on Powell and Market. He kept Robin's watch. Never sold it. He wore it to every performance, every premiere, every important moment in his career. In 1998, when Quietum played in San Francisco, David arranged for tickets to be set aside for Robin. Robin came to the show, and afterward, they had dinner. "You changed my life," David told him. "No," Robin said. "You were already brilliant. I just made sure people saw it. That's all I did. I removed the invisibility. The talent was always yours." "Why did you stop that day?" David asked. "Why did you watch?" Robin thought for a moment. "I was walking past and something made me look. Maybe it was the intensity on your face, or the precision of your movement. But once I looked, I couldn't look away. You were telling a story, and I needed to know how it ended. That's what great art does. It captures attention and refuses to let go." David continued performing with Cirque du Soleil for 15 years, touring with multiple shows. He eventually became a creative consultant, helping develop new acts and train emerging mime artists. He started a scholarship fund for street performers, using money he'd earned with Cirque. The scholarship helped struggling artists survive while developing their craft, the same kind of help Robin had given him. When Robin Williams died in 2014, David was performing with Cirque in Las Vegas. He dedicated that night's performance to Robin, and before he went on stage, he told the story of the Tuesday afternoon when everything changed. "Robin Williams saved my career," David said to the crew and cast gathered backstage. "But more than that, he gave me something I'd lost after 3 years of being invisible. He gave me the belief that my art mattered. That I mattered. He saw me when no one else did." David still performs occasionally, now in his 50s. He teaches mime at a San Francisco art school. His students always ask about his career, about Cirque du Soleil, about performing worldwide. And David always tells them the same story. "For 3 years, I performed on a San Francisco corner for nobody. I was ready to quit. Then Robin Williams stopped to watch. He didn't just watch, he performed with me. He validated my art when I'd stopped believing in it. And then he opened doors I didn't even know existed." He shows them Robin's watch, which he still wears. "This isn't about fame or celebrity or having Robin Williams as a patron," David tells his students. "This is about what happens when someone truly sees your art. When someone recognizes the work you're doing, even when the whole world is walking past. That recognition, that belief from one person, can change everything." David Chen performed for empty sidewalks for 3 years. Nobody stopped, nobody watched, nobody cared. Then Robin Williams stopped. And everything changed. Not because Robin made him talented, David was always talented, but because Robin made him visible. And once David was visible to Robin, he became visible to everyone else. That's the power of recognition. That's what happens when someone with a platform uses it to shine light on someone else's art. A mime performed on a San Francisco corner for 3 years. The world walked past. Then Robin Williams stopped to watch. And a career was born.